half the leaves are on the ground now.
Yeah. Hey, Jordan, Carrie, I had to go through a Zoom sign-in process to get in here. I'm not sure what that was about. First time I've had to do it for a while. Like that, Carrie, this happened to you this morning. So
I did too, Bruce. I changed. This is the first time I've used this computer for a while. I bet you it's an upgrade thing.
yeah, I think you're probably right. Yeah.
Did you just have to sign your name in, or?
Oh no, I had to even somehow remember my Zoom password, which.
Oh wow!
Since I use the same password for most things, it wasn't that hard.
With me, it's always FORGOT. Forgot my password.
Right.
And then you get a new one to forget again. So
Exactly.
OHSHIT, I think is my response when I asked for a password.
We do have public attendees, so I think the link is doing okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, should we fire this up?
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So this is a extended public comment period for the Commission to Study School Funding, and we'll just start with a quick roll call of our panelists here. Dave Luno from Hopkinton, with Ozzie the long-haired dachshund in the room. Mel?
Mel Myler calling from Port Clyde, Maine.
Thanks. Val?
Val Zanchuk calling from Falmouth, Massachusetts.
Corrine?
Cascaden calling from Berlin, New Hampshire.
Bill?
Bill Ardinger calling from Concord, New Hampshire.
And Carrie?
Carrie Portree, Dover, New Hampshire.
And Jordan?
Jordan, also in Dover.
And Bruce? All right, Bruce, you're muted, but that's all right. You're logged in.
I'm still here. Bruce Mallory,
All right.
30-point man.
Okay.
Yes.
And if anybody else joins, we'll just let them in. So as mentioned, this an extended public comment period. So we go right to opening the floor to our attendees to let us know what's important to them, and so members of the commission can hear that. And what do we do with these comments, Jordan?
Well, we take the comments, we share them with the commission. We're compiling them all, so we're making sure that everyone's input is part of the process as the commission works towards its recommendations.
Right. And all the members of the commission will, even though they're not with us on Zoom, will have the opportunity to view these comments. So great. So who do we got first, Jordan? I'll let you handle the doorway.
Great. I'll just recap for anyone new here. If you're on Zoom on a computer, tablet, or phone using the Zoom application, you should be able to raise your hand. If you look up in the right-hand corner or down on the bottom of your screen there. So please raise your hand and we'll get to you in the order that hands are raised. If you are on the phone and would like to make a comment, you can hit *9 and that will raise your hand on the phone. So I see we have Phil with his hand raised, so I will bring Phil in now. Phil, welcome.
Great. Phil, welcome to the commission.
Thank you very much. I just had to unmute myself here. Thanks to all the commission members for all of your hard work and time spent on this project. It's just can't imagine the amount of hours you guys have put in. I'm the chair of the Board of Selectmen in Rye, and just looking at some of our facts, the median age of Rye residents is 55 years old as compared to Berlin, which is 42.3. And when I was born and brought up in Berlin, I think it was more like 35 at that time. Also Claremont at 41 years, Rochester 41, and Dover at 36.1 years. So Rye has a significantly older population base than many of those towns. Over 30% of the Rye residents are retired, and many are on fixed incomes. In addition to a good number of the retirees have also purchased their homes in years past, and with the enhanced assessment of their properties are paying substantially more in property taxes each year. As critical as it is to fund an adequate education for New Hampshire children, it's also equally as critical to protect our seniors' homes. If we develop an educational funding formula that's built on a current property tax plan, will force many seniors into having to sell their homes as they will not be able to pay their taxes. I urge us to come up with a funding mechanism that is fair for all involved. If we have to use the property tax base, we need to change the formula. One idea is to pay for additional educational funding by imposing a 25% property tax surcharge on properties owned by non-New Hampshire residents. Realizing this could result in some unintended consequences, but it may also fund a good portion of the needed educational needs, while at the same time protecting our New Hampshire senior residents from having to sell their homes. We cannot, I repeat, we cannot add additional tax burden on New Hampshire owners using the current formulas, particularly for seniors who have owned their homes for years. So much for my soapbox oratory, but and speaking to seniors here, many of them on fixed incomes, they just cannot afford to pay additional property taxes. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Great, Phil. Thanks for sharing your comments with us this afternoon. We agree it's very important. So thanks so much. Great. Who do we have next, Jordan?
So next we have a phone number. So I can't see the name on here, but phone number, you have your hand raised and it ends in 492. Just introduce yourself. You'll probably have to unmute as well.
And how do they do? Yep, there we go. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Kat DeFranzo. Sorry, this is the first time I've dialed into a Zoom call. But
what can you say your name again?
Oh, Kat DeFranzo.
Okay, hi, Kat.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for allowing public comment and taking these. I guess I'll just get started. So as I said before, my name is Kat DeFranzo, and I'm a first-year math teacher at one of the Manchester high schools. Even though I am a first-year teacher, this is not my first time in the Manchester School District. I spent my clinical experience in Bedford and Manchester. Spending my undergraduate education at St. Anselm College, I was also a part of the Access Academy program, which is an after-school program that offers extra credit courses to the traditionally underrepresented youth in the Manchester public schools. My sophomore year at St. A's brought me two very differing perspectives in the world of education. On one hand, I started my clinical observation hours at a Bedford school. On the other, I started volunteering at Access Academy. My attention was immediately drawn to the very different experiences my students had between these districts. In the Bedford schools, each student had a Chromebook, each classroom had document cameras, and infrastructure was set up for pod or hub learning. I learned that my Access Academy students in the Manchester School District had none of that. This disparity frustrated me greatly because my students in Manchester had virtually the same motivations, goals, and drive, yet their learning environments were polar opposite and not as supportive as the Bedford schools. For my students in Manchester, the distribution of Chromebooks started last year for only just a few students. After the Manchester School District received a donation of Chromebooks at the beginning of the school year, more were able to go out to the students. Currently, there are still some students who don't have Chromebooks or unable to use their Chromebooks because they don't have access to Wi-Fi. As for document cameras, those teachers who would like one have to buy one for their classrooms. Most classrooms don't even have projectors. My classroom didn't, and in order for me to correctly support my students' need, I had to buy one myself this past week. As for infrastructure, Manchester's is very utilitarian and cold. The classrooms are bleak and are not conducive to motivating the students to strive for their best. When students see that there is little investment put into the classrooms as well as their education, their motivation is greatly and negatively impacted. I know that the students are negatively impacted because of my experience in Access Academy. In this after-school program, we pulled from the 4 public high schools in the Manchester School District. In Access Academy, we had refugees, immigrants, students from low-income families, first-generation students, and many more subgroups. We offered classes like ethics, journalism, college admissions, and so many more. Each day, after 7 hours of schooling, Manchester students would come to the campus just to sit through another hour of learning. After each final presentation at the end of the semesters, students would always be asking for more classes, more days to meet, and longer programs. What high schooler has ever asked for more work? No one. I don't know any of them. Access Academy offers a unique space for students to engage in a positive schooling experience that is not accessible in their day-to-day lives at their Manchester schools. I saw so many students thrive in this environment. Their motivation and need for learning pushed me to become a better teacher. These students were the reason why I decided to stay in the Manchester schools after graduation. When given the opportunity and space, these students will push their limits. The Manchester School District needs this funding because without it, only a small pool of students are able to participate in programs like Access Academy. These students need equitable and adequate funding from the state because without it, they will never have the opportunities to realize that their knowledge and learning has no limits, even when their environment may tell them otherwise. I want to thank you all for listening, and hopefully this will work out. Thank you, guys.
Kat, thanks so much for sharing your comments with us and your experience in Manchester, and thanks for all the work you're doing with the in the biggest school district in the state with the lowest per pupil spending in the state, and we appreciate your comments.
Of course, thank you.
Let's see, who's next, Jordan?
Let's see. I don't see any other hands raised at this time, so I'll just I see James has got his hand raised. James, I will bring you in now. James, welcome.
Great, welcome, James.
Hi, actually, this is Liz Kerwin. I'm signed under my husband's account. Sorry about that. I didn't even realize my computer died earlier today. So my name is Liz Kerwin. I've been able to participate in a couple of the other public comment sessions. So thank you again for hosting this last one and for listening to our stories. So my name is Liz Kerwin, and I'm an EL teacher in Manchester, which means that I teach English language to immigrant and refugee students. And firstly, I'd like to thank the Commission for all of your hard work and your analysis throughout 2020. I'm really excited for the opportunity for youth voices to be heard, and that the Commission has offered this specific public comment period for students that we serve. The ramifications of funding inequities affect all of our stakeholders, but mostly it affects our students. And I think that giving them the space and the stance for their voices to be heard is really important, so thank you. I just wanted to let you know that I originally moved to Manchester from Nashua 2 years ago, and I did it for my students because I wanted to go to more sports games, I wanted to chaperone more dances, and I really wanted to be invested in the community that I served. And initially I was pretty surprised the first time that I got my property tax bill living in Manchester, because it was really just a $300 difference between my Nashua home and now my new Manchester home. But I did some research and I saw that a comparative house in Nashua would have been an additional $1,200 on my tax bill compared to the one that I have in Manchester now. And we know that this is because Nashua has additional tax wealth, and therefore they have more funding for educational investment, while Manchester has a property tax cap. And this tax cap truly limits the ability to invest in education, and we need the state to review these restrictions when considering recommendations for a more equitable school funding solution. But I could go on and tell you about the disparities that exist between Manchester and other tax wealthy districts, but that would not highlight the most important piece of this discussion, which we know is our students. And I'm really fortunate to truly serve the best kids, which I know every teacher says, but for me, it's really true, because Manchester, since Manchester is a refugee resettlement site, it means that I have a global classroom with a global perspective. In one of my classes, I have 8 different countries represented and 6 different languages. The English language learner population at my school is 14.5% of the total school population, where in addition to that, almost 23% of my school population has a language other than English at home. So this unique blend of diversity at my school makes it stronger, but it also requires funding and support to help our students navigate through the American education system. My students immediately are at a disadvantage compared to their American-born and native English-speaking peers. They have to work harder for the same results in the classes, they have to advocate for different needs, and they have to learn about systemic barriers that are in place and how to break them down. This is not fair for my students, but it's their reality right now in the society that we have and the education systems. Because of these barriers and inequities, I have to have difficult conversations with my students, including the fact that adequately funded education in Manchester is not like other districts in the state. But it's essential that we have these difficult conversations about educational inequities with our learners. My students know and my students feel that they are treated differently than others. Schools need to be a safe space for students to learn, grow, and flourish, and it should not be dictated by the zip code in which my students live to determine their future trajectory. Because of this, you will be hearing testimony from my students at the Youth Voice session next week. They are going to share their experiences in American education and discuss some of their goals. One of my students from Burundi wants to be an ophthalmologist. I had to Google that. That's an eye surgeon. I had no idea. And it's so amazing that these are his goals. But the highest science class offered at my school right now is human anatomy. We do not have a diverse selection of science courses because since I got hired in Manchester in 2013, our science department has been cut by 3 teachers. Another student from Tanzania wants to start her own business, but my school no longer offers an accounting class to help her learn the financial aspects of being a business owner. This too has been cut since my initial hire in 2013. And another student from the Dominican Republic wants to be a lawyer, but our law class is just 1 semester long for her. The ramifications of an adequate funding gap are real and will not lead my students to complete and realize their goals. Their learning experience and therefore their future educational path is different from their other New Hampshire peers. As I'm learning from my students through this process, I hope the Commission will learn from them too when considering recommendations to make school funding more equitable across our districts and our state. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Liz, and thanks for your time here this afternoon with us, and for sharing those important perspectives about that you see with the students you work with, and for also bringing them forward next week. We'll really look forward to their participation.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Take care. All right, Jordan.
Yeah, next hand up is Angelina. Angelina, I am bringing you in now. Welcome.
Welcome, Angelina.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Angelina Gillespie. I attend grad school right now currently at UNH Manchester. I'm a resident of Manchester, and I am also student teaching at 2 high schools in Manchester. Before I begin this evening, I just want to firstly thank the Commission for providing this space for everyone today. Thank you. So as a student in high school myself, which was not all that long ago, I was one of the lucky ones. I grew up going to school in Derry, New Hampshire, and I attended Pinkerton Academy. I never once had to worry about not having enough resources. I never really had to worry about a lack of resources inhibiting on my education in a negative way. Pinkerton Academy is fully stocked with fresh new books, current technology, and quality paid teachers. I remember being on free and reduced lunch when I started school at Pinkerton, and I remember the shame that I felt knowing that only 8.81% as of 2019 of my peers were on this program too. Not only was I an outcast at Pinkerton because of the color of my skin, but now I had to deal with being one of the few kids that had to be on free and reduced lunch. I truly thought at this time in my life as a student that I was one of the unlucky ones. Years have passed by, and I now find myself attending school at UNH Manchester. In the spring of 2019, I completed some fieldwork experience for a course at Exeter High School. At EHS, 91.1% of students are white and 6.03% are on free and reduced lunch. I was really fortunate enough to make a really good impression on my cooperating teacher at the time, along with one other teacher who was my professor for the course. This teacher really wanted me to complete my student teaching internship with her at EHS. Both teachers were actually already talking about job opportunities with me, and I was so thrilled. I was invested and I was on board. Until I wasn't. In the fall semester of my senior year at UNH Manchester, I learned about ESOL programs and ESL students. I really had never heard about this demographic of students in my life before this point, as I was winding down and finishing up my bachelor's degree. Coincidentally, a couple of weeks later, a work-study job opportunity came up for me. I began working at a high school in Manchester as an ESOL tutor. After my first day on the job, I emailed my advisor and asked her how I could become an ESOL teacher. I had never met students so warm and so grateful to have me there as someone who would help them along their path onto educational success. I knew that Manchester was a place where I wanted to be and where I wanted to be in my teaching career. I made the choice to turn down an opportunity to begin my career at EHS to work in the Manchester School District. I made the active decision to turn down an opportunity working in a tax-wealthy and funded school for a tax-poor, underfunded school. Many people asked me why and thought that I was crazy. Why would I want to teach those kids in that area? The stigma and disparities that exist against Manchester schools and the students within them is alarming. I decided to invest in the youth of Manchester because I could and still do see the unique set of needs that they have and yet are not being entirely fulfilled. I want to dedicate my life to doing everything in my power to ensure that their needs are fulfilled to the fullest extent. As a student teacher just entering the field, I am realizing that I will have to fight for my students to receive an equitable education, more than I ever thought before. This is a realization that I'm still trying to grapple with. I will have to fight for my students to receive an education that will no longer leave them sinking, seeking for an education that will propel them towards success. An education that empowers instead of disempowers. All of us here have the opportunity to be a part of this necessary change. I want to leave you all on this one final but very pertinent note. The demographic of students in Manchester, especially those that are EL students, face an overwhelming and mountainous number of inequities each and every day. Our ELs have traveled through wars, they've traveled through loss, and they've traveled through trauma. And they entrust us to prepare them and help them accomplish their dreams and goals. Their resilience still astounds me, and I believe it always will. Many of our students in Manchester are battling with living in poverty, unstable home lives, and trying to raise families on their own. Our EL students are working overnights just to help support their families and to put food on the table. They are going into homes in dangerous parts of the city with empty refrigerators. Shouldn't our schools be safe spaces where inequities go out the window and where they have access to an equitable education that meets them where they are? If our schools cannot be this space for our students, then what space ever will be for them? We all know the answer to this question. We all know that it is not going to be us, then it will be no one. I am invested in the Manchester School District, and I will continue to advocate for the students I am so fortunate to work with. Along with Liz Kerwin, we are working with our students and teaching them that they have the ability to create needed change by using their voices and taking action. This is why you will hear their voices, experiences, and perspectives during the next Youth Voice session next week, as Liz mentioned. We would not all be here today if we thought our voices and our actions could create change. I hope the Commission will keep this in mind as our students do the same. Let's be the change we want to see, the change we want our students to strive for. This is about creating, fostering, and sustaining equity in our schools, and I hope the Commission will do their part in making this happen. Thank you for your time and allowing this space to exist.
Angelina, thanks for taking the time to be with us this afternoon and for the good works that you're doing, along with Liz and Kat in Manchester, and also again for bringing forward your students for next week for a student voice. That should be really interesting. I mean, they all are, but this should be a very interesting comment period next week. So thanks so much, Angelina.
Thank you.
All right, where are we going now, Jordan?
All right, I do not see any hands currently raised, so I'll just remind folks that they can click the raise hand button on their screen if they would like to make a comment.
Comments from any members of the Commission?
I would only say that the Manchester Public Schools are quite lucky to have the three people who just testified.
Yeah, their stories kind of amplify some of the concerns that we've been having. And in particular, when you look at the two who have had the experience in wealthy districts and then are now working in Manchester, those are the kinds of things that we as a commission have been looking at. And when you begin to look at the disparity issue that we've had several conversations about, this is exactly what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And in trying to provide some way to provide equity of opportunity for kids regardless of where they are in the state. And these students in Manchester, particularly in this instance, demonstrate the need, the keen need that this commission has been trying to deal with and will deal with, and trying to make sure that there is equity in the distribution of school funding.
Mhm.
I really appreciate those comments. Those touched my heart deeply, frankly.
Sure did, Mel. So thanks. And you know, also I don't want to forget about you know, the comments that Phil shared with us.
Absolutely.
Because I think that you know, taken all together, it really highlights the complexity that we face with these issues, and the importance, I think, of one of the things we've spent quite a bit of time talking about, which are property tax relief programs, and deferral programs, and really how that needs to be integrated in with a policy package going forward.
And in fact, I can recall a conversation that we've had using the fixed income person who has an expensive house in a community that's on a fixed income, and how we can provide some kind of tax relief, unlike what we've had in the past. So don't forget, as we found out from Dred, is that this property tax relief issue has not been looked at in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think even though it was a couple sentences in the AIR report, to me, it's a huge issue.
Oh yeah,
in trying to make sure that that everybody's has the ability to pay their fair share.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, we've got another hand. Oh, I thought we did for a second. Looks like it. Oh, now it's back up again. Looks so Jane, bringing you in here.
Great. Welcome, Jane. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep,
Yes.
You're good.
Great. I wanted to follow up on the comments from Rye and the focus section for seniors. This is Jane Farini from Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And I just wanted you folks to know that I reached out to our senior coordinator here in the city, and she forwarded the focus group information to a bunch of agencies on aging. And I'll just give you the list right now. The Alliance for Healthy Aging, New Hampshire Association for Seniors, UNH Center for Active Community Living, Rockingham Service Link, Seacoast Village Network, Seacoast Provider Network, Rockingham Nutrition Meals on Wheels, Community Resource Network, NHBEAS, Veterans Count, Endowment for Health, Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, State of New Hampshire Commission on Aging, AARP, Foundation for Seacoast Health, Portsmouth Elks, Portsmouth Seacoast YMCA. So just so you know, we're trying to get the word out for the seniors, and like the comments in Rye, the comments in Portsmouth, and some of the other high property value towns, the seniors are really the ones that are a very important voice in this. One concern our senior coordinator had, and I know this is through no fault of the commission and it's due to COVID, but I thought the theory was, that the outreach was going to try to be physical, but it can't be because of COVID right now. So she asked, are there other means perhaps other than that one focus groups, paper, you know what I mean? Other means by which seniors might be more comfortable participating. So certainly we're doing what we can to get the word out to the seniors, but I throw that out just for you guys. I'm sure 10 steps ahead on anticipating that, but that was something that you raised, and I thought it was something important for the commission to consider. The other thing that I'm basing it on my misunderstanding is that our legislative subcommittee in Portsmouth had a conversation with Chris Dwyer, and she corrected my misunderstanding of the AIR report. When I read the report, particularly in the latter section, I thought that the report was a recommendation for, in essence, a return of donor towns. And she clearly and distinctly corrected my misunderstanding and said that it is a model, that the report is a model, and that in fact that you can go on the commission's website and play with the weights. And so the modeling would actually change. So I don't think I'm going to be the only person that may have misunderstood what that draft AIR report, said when I read the latter section of the report. And I'm just raising that because obviously that's something that, as it is a draft report, and I'm sure it was clear to folks more familiar on the subject than I am, but I'm just thinking that might be something that others might also assume. And so I'm just raising that because I know that the commission has not made a recommendation and is looking broadly at the issue, and the burden on the property tax is something that the commission's heard an awful lot about. So I just raised that for your consideration.
Great. Jane, thanks very much for your time. I know you've been, it's not just this afternoon. You've been following this very closely as you've been following all of the ed funding issues as they've made their way through the legislature. So thanks for your commitment to this and for your time and especially for your feedback. I think on the AIR report, I think we do recognize that and we'll look for ways to make sure that people realize that the emphasis of that work is really on the student equity piece and the upfront cost model and not on the funding model. So there's lots of examples on how to fund schools, not just the couple of straw man ones that the AIR team included. So definitely appreciate your comments on that.
Well, thank you very much for all your work. And, Again, I've been tracking it and I was confused. So I figured that doesn't say much about me, but certainly I figured I'd raise it, and I appreciate all your efforts. So thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Jane. Take care. So I don't see any hands up at the moment. Could it be that because the sun came out, people want to break early?
I can't believe Bruce came inside. I was waiting for him to fire the grill up and start putting some burgers on and just, with a chef's, apron on and really rub it in that he was outside.
Purely a function of losing my internet connection and having to come back to my office.
Yeah, I've had sketchy internet all day.
Oh, okay. So have I. Yeah.
It's been bad. Comcast has been down.
Yeah.
Okay. That explains it.
So good. Well, I guess we can get on with everybody can get on with their barbecue and their grilling tonight, and let's see what's coming up. Carrie, you want to talk about what we got coming up next Wednesday?
Sure. So next Wednesday on October 7th, we have the Youth Public Voice commenting session. And we're also, thanks Jane for the outreach for senior residents. Those focus groups, there's 2 on October 6th, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. People are more than welcome to reach out to the school funding email that's in the chat. Oh yes, everyone can't see it. Can everyone see the chat? I can't remember.
I think everyone should be able to see your comment, yeah.
Okay, or email me directly at carrie.portree@unh.edu. We're also talking to taxpayer associations on Thursday, and we have youth voice focus groups on October 13th and October 14th. And we're gathering municipal and school leaders once again in late October. So those are the different engagement activities we're doing as we move towards the end of this study. And then we're looking of how to share our findings out to the public and moving into that stage when we conclude in early December.
Great. Thanks so much, Carrie.
Today.
What's that?
Sorry, it was great to hear everybody today.
Yeah, yes. Anybody else anything to share for the good of the cause? Jay, Mel?
Oh, Jay, I'm going to give you a call in about 5 minutes.
Great, thank you. And who was the first speaker?
Oh, Phil Winslow.
From
No,
Rye.
I didn't hear him, but the woman from Manchester, the charter school.
Yeah, it was Phil, then Kat DeFranco, and then Liz Kerwin, and then
Okay,
Angelina.
I thought it was Liz Kerwin. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, but the comments will get all distributed to members of the commission and also available for public view on the commission website. So.
I had dueling Zooms. This is.
Yeah, two places at one time, Jay. Your dream come true.
Absolutely.
All right,
All
guys.
righty.
All right.
So everyone have a good time grilling burgers, and we'll see everybody real soon.
Talk to you, Mel.
All right. Take care.